When you picture Amsterdam, what comes to mind? Probably those winding canals, the beautiful historic houses, that vibrant, freewheeling culture. It's a city that millions of people have fallen in love with. But what happens when that love starts to feel, well, suffocating? When a city that's famous for being so livable becomes almost unlivable for the people who actually call it home. Okay, let's get into it. This message is just so raw, so powerful. It was scrawled on banners during resident protests, and it really cuts right to the heart of the whole issue. This is the cry of a city that's at its breaking point, where the massive global tourism machine has slammed right into the daily lives of its citizens. For years now, Amsterdam has been dealing with what locals have started calling a tourist tsunami. It's a phenomenon that actually has a name, over-tourism, and believe me, it has completely reshaped the city's identity. So, what is over-tourism exactly? Well, to put it simply, it's when there are just too many tourists. It's that tipping point where the sheer number of visitors starts to wear away at the quality of life for locals. And honestly, it even starts to degrade the very experience the tourists came for in the first place. So, how does a city even get to this breaking point? Well, it's not just one thing. It's more like a perfect storm of different forces, which this chart shows pretty clearly. On one side, you've got things like growing global wealth, which is creating whole new classes of tourists. Then you have technology, which just turbocharges the whole thing. Budget airlines make it ridiculously cheap to get there, and social media acts like a 24/7 free marketing machine. And holding it all up is this powerful, long-held belief that for cities, growth is always a good thing. You can see how all these streams just flow together and lead to one place, over-tourism. And for the people who actually live there, the consequences they're severe. It's not just about crowded streets, it's a daily battle. Locals are literally being pushed out of their homes because of skyrocketing rents, fueled by platforms like Airbnb. And their neighborhoods are changing right before their eyes. Local bakeries and butcher shops are disappearing, replaced by this monoculture of waffle shops, souvenir stores, and those tourist-trapped cheese sellers. So faced with this full-blown crisis, the city of Amsterdam decided it had to do something. It had to fight back. So it rolled out a whole toolkit of policies and campaigns designed to try and take back control of the city and its image. You can actually see how the city's strategy changed over time. It started out with these gentle reminders, campaigns like enjoy and respect. When that didn't really work, it got a lot more aggressive. The Stay Away campaign flat out told certain groups, especially young men just looking to party, not to come. And now they're trying to rebrand completely, hoping to attract what they call a quality tourist, someone who's more interested in culture than in chaos. But this brings up a really crucial question, doesn't it? Is the city genuinely trying to fix the negative impacts of tourism for the sake of its residents? Or is this all just a clever marketing ploy, a kind of brand washing, to make the city more appealing to a wealthier, more selective type of tourist? Now, this is where it gets really interesting. On one hand, you have the idea of fair degrowth. That would mean actually downscaling the tourism industry to put residents first. But what critics are accusing Amsterdam of is fake degrowth, basically just swapping out huge crowds of budget tourists for smaller crowds of high-spending tourists. It keeps the economic engine humming, but it doesn't necessarily make the city any better for the people who live there year-round. Okay, so these policies and abstract ideas are one thing, but what do they actually feel like for people on the ground? To find out, we need to zoom in. Researchers focused on the real, lived experiences of residents in two very different, but equally tourist-packed parts of Amsterdam. And this just illustrates the divide perfectly. These are maps drawn from memory by the residents themselves. Look at the one on the left. The Damstraat is just a solid wall of tourist shops, pizza, souvenirs, smoke shops. But on the right, you have the Negen Straatjes, the 9 streets, which is lined with high-end boutiques. But you can still see a local supermarket on the map, kind of like a ghost of a neighborhood it used to be. The research found that these different types of tourism create very different reactions. The crowd-pleasing vibe of Damstraat leads to total alienation and frustration. It causes residents to just avoid the street completely. But in the more gentrifying 9 streets, the feeling is more ambivalent. It's a mix of annoyance at the crowds, but also some appreciation for the nice shops. So residents there end up negotiating their way through the area, constantly rerouting their daily lives around the tourists. This quote from a resident named Nick, it just says it all. For him, and for so many others, the Damstraat isn't even part of his city anymore. It's a space that he has completely given up to the tourist economy.
But don't think for a second that the supposedly higher quality Nine Streets area doesn't have problems. This drawing shows the reality of viral, social media driven tourism. A single fry shop gets famous online, and suddenly you have queues that block entire streets and bridges, bringing daily life to a grinding halt.
And the emotional toll is just immense. This quote from Jaden it's just heartbreaking. The constant stress and frustration are literally changing who she is as a person, turning her into someone she doesn't even recognize. This is the human cost of over-tourism that so often gets forgotten in these debates. So this brings us right back to our central question about the city's real intentions. And honestly, there is no better test of Amsterdam's commitment to its residents than the huge debate over its most famous tourist attraction, the coffee shops. For years, there's been this really controversial proposal on the table. It's called the I criterion. The I stands for inclusione, which is the Dutch word for resident. The rule would mean only Dutch residents could go into cannabis coffee shops. It would be a radical move aimed right at the heart of what many see as nuisance tourism. And to understand why this is such a massive deal, you just have to look at this number. Research showed that a staggering 100 out of the city's 166 coffee shops, that's almost 2/3 of them, exist pretty much entirely to serve tourists. This isn't a local thing that tourists also enjoy. It's a huge industry built specifically for the visitor economy. And yet, after all that, despite strong support from the mayor and so many residents who were just fed up with the disruption, the city council rejected the proposal. And here's the why. The city's stated goal, what they said they wanted, was to improve livability. But their revealed priority, what their actions showed they really cared about, was economics. They were scared of the financial fallout. They worried that banning tourists from legal shops would just create a bigger, more dangerous illegal drug market on the streets. When push came to shove, the city chose to stick with the status quo. So after all these campaigns, all these policies and debates, where does that leave Amsterdam? And what does its struggle tell us about the future of tourism in our most beloved cities all over the world? Amsterdam is still caught in this incredibly difficult balancing act. It talks the talk of degrowth, but it walks the walk of economic dependency. Its residents are the ones left to adapt and avoid and negotiate their lives around this force that just feels unstoppable. And its big pivot to quality tourism has shown that a wealthier tourist isn't always a better one, especially when one viral TikTok can turn a quiet neighborhood into a gridlock's queue. This quote really captures the fear that so many locals have. It's the fear that improving the city just means sanitizing it, erasing its unique, gritty character, and replacing it with some polished, exclusive version that only serves the wealthy, whether they're residents or tourists. Which leaves us with a final and pretty profound question. When a city's streets, its shops, and its very soul are reoriented to primarily serve people who are just passing through, at what point does it stop being a living, breathing city and become something else entirely, a theme park of itself?